Welcome. I'm actually going to check and make sure it's going live here.
So does
Keep
that mean
log-
it goes live? Oh shoot,
It's
I just
going
saw you had a
live.
story.
TikTok. Um, Let me just do this. Yeah, this is my first time using Restream.
Oh, no worries. I saw you just did a story and I could have reposted it. So are we live and we'll be live on IG too?
Yeah, we are. But I'm
Oh,
just making sure that we're showing live. I don't see that we're live on IG. Oh, you know what? I was supposed to get a stream key. 1 second.
okay, go ahead.
All right. Update channel with new stream key. So people are waiting. It's streaming on TikTok. Hi, TikTok. Hi, YouTube. We're streaming live. I am just updating our stream key to go live here. So bear with me 1 second. Edit. And I'm just going to get the stream key.
I should have dressed up April.
Oh, you're fine. Please.
You look really pretty.
I was like, I wanted to get dressed for this because I go live every day on TikTok and I'm always wearing my shirt. I was like, all right, I'll just
Oh.
get dressed today. I go live just about every day on there. All right, it's sending the data, so I'm
Oh.
just gonna make sure it's going live from my test account. Let's make sure. Okay. It says that it's streaming now, but I need to test it because I'm not seeing that it's actually
And I don't
going.
know
So
how to see it, so
I'm on TikTok seeing if it's showing live right now.
I see this.
Followers over the last 4.
Oh, I wish you I didn't get to repost this. Oh, there you are. You're live.
Okay, we're
You're
live
live.
here.
Let me see if yeah, I see. Well, it did. Okay, there you go.
TikTok seeing if it's showing.
Yes, we're live
Okay,
on IG.
okay, it's showing live there. I'm just gonna double check because I also have us on TikTok too.
Kick
Oh, it's called.
Tom.
I always call it TikTok.
Oh, I was about to say, is there another platform?
You're like, is this another? Okay, we're live on TikTok as well and on YouTube. So if you are just joining, thank you. This is the first time I'm going live on Restream, and I have a very special guest. But before we get started, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. So if you are joining from any platform, please just comment. I'll get to your comments a little bit later. And if this conversation really resonates with you where you are in the stage of your career, please reshare and stay engaged. That'll help it, circulate. So today's conversation is for managers, senior managers, and directors, executives. If you're not at that level and you want to be an executive ahead of time, many of you said that in my comments, you are still welcome to come. As you move up the ladder, the work is going to become less about what you're actually doing, and it's going to be more about how you handle the pressure, the ambiguity, the politics, and how you emotionally regulate through all of those things when people piss you off. So, at this point in your career, what we're talking about today, your execution stops working. And it's those soft skills that everybody can't see that starts to need to pick that up. So I'm a promotion strategist for all of you who don't know me. I'm April Little, and I primarily work with women and some men leaders when they come to me to get promoted to the executive level. But I'm excited to be joined today with Raquel Hopkins. Now, she's known as the capacity expert, and she's a licensed therapist, certified coach. Let me know if I forget anything. Current talent and organization development leader, and a former vice president of HR. And I feel like that was important to mention because a lot of people may not know that about Raquel. So she's worked her way up through senior leadership roles, and her work has gained over, almost 1 million followers across socials because she challenges a dominant narrative about, do we need more mental health or do we need greater capacity to live our lives? And we don't do our careers in a bubble. And so that's why we're talking about this today. So, Raquel, thank you for being here.
Uh, April, I owe you one. Can we just need to say that because it's
Please don't.
2024. Yes, I am. 2024. I told April that she could reach out to me whenever. In 2024, you provide a lot of resources. on LinkedIn, and that's how I came across April's content. The fact that you're just willing to show up and be who you are, I've benefited from that. In fact, I credit that to being one of the reasons I also went viral last year. There was a live that you did, and you were talking about thought leadership and what it really means to be a thought leadership. And there was one thing that you said, and I was like, I need to change the way that I'm communicating my messaging. And I sat on it for a few months because fear. And then I did it, and I was like, April's that girl.
No, but you're that girl. You're a superstar. So if I could share, so Raquel, you were on LinkedIn for a little bit. LinkedIn is a very interesting place now, which is why I'm actively growing in other places. So thank you for doing this with me today. But your messaging, I think, is so potent that while it's great in the written word, people were able to really receive that in video form. And I think that they were able to really do something with it fast too. Like I feel like that's part of it. And so for anybody listening, I think you went from what, zero to
3,000.
300,000 in like a month or two when you
Mhm.
finally pull the
Mhm.
trigger. I mean, you're now at 500 on just on Instagram alone, aside from all the other places. But that is the power of listening to your voice, and you had something to say. It just wasn't the right medium. This is the
Mhm.
perfect medium for you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank
no,
you.
thank you. Because you are doing something that we're not hearing a lot about. We hear all the terms, especially at work. My boss is toxic. He's a moron. This
And
is
they
the
may
H
be.
word. Yeah, and it could be
And
true.
they may be.
Yeah. Um, I'm in a the H word as a HR leader, hostile work
Uh-huh.
environment, all the things. And so I thought it would just be interesting to talk to you as another, former exec too, about your experiences and pairing that sort of with your expertise now. So I have a series of questions. We're going to go till about 5:45 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 4:45. Are you Central Standard Time?
Central. Mhm.
Perfect. All right. So I have some questions. So the first thing here is when you talk about capacity, what do you actually mean? And what would this mean for a leader?
So first thing, I'll start with the second part of that. I don't think it has anything to do with position, although this is
Mhm.
what we are. You're catered to talking to leaders because it applies to everyone, especially because capacity is more so rooted in your growth edge or it's a development opportunity. So capacity is your ability to stay with your life without falling apart or disappearing from it. It's how much pressure, uncertainty, and friction you can hold without shrinking, avoiding, or just abandoning yourself as a whole. And we know that that is easy to do, especially when we take ourselves outside of our environments that we feel comfortable, i.e., to your point, being in a corporate environment.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
not just emotional either. So it's mental, it's emotional, and it's behavioral. So your ability to stay grounded in who you are and what matters to you while life is actively happening.
More so about your time right now as a leader and as a vice president. What did that mean to you then in terms of how you operated? Because I feel like capacity has certainly been developed over many years for
Hmm.
you.
Well, I don't know that I had it. Know that I had it when I was, especially not as VP. I think when I knew I had it as when I was working as an executive, when I kept feeling like rest was not enough, right? And rest meaning taking a vacation and returning back. And like rest just wasn't a solution for me. Like I would feel lighter and then I would return. I think that I noticed my capacity started to really develop once I took the leap to walk away. And it
Mhm.
wasn't walking away from corporate or HR, it was getting in alignment with what was most important to me at the time.
Yeah. No, that's good. I feel like at certain points we obviously didn't have the term. I feel like you own this term. I know a lot of people are using this term, so everybody out there, you heard it from Raquel first in terms of how we hear the term today, having capacity. So I don't feel like I had it until I finally matured in leadership, and that was more so biting my tongue till it bleeding and figuring out the right ways to communicate. But so then there's another question. So one of the things that I've come across is a lot of people are burning out. And I actually personally know a lot of people taking leave from work. So, with burnout being used so broadly, how do you distinguish actual burnout from limited capacity?
I don't separate the two. For me, burnout is more of a signal than anything. It just tells me that something in your life is outgrowing the current capacity that you have. And to me, that's actually normal. I think that what we've started to do today is pathologize a lot of the things. To experience, when I think about the phase that I was in when I was experiencing burnout and how I would try to turn down this concept of burnout, it was because I wasn't willing to lose at the time. I was very attached to the life and the lifestyle that I had. So the burnout was more so who I wasn't willing to become in the face of everything that I was facing. So I don't separate burnout from limited capacity in any way. Burnout is a signal.
Yeah. Okay. When people burn out, what do you typically recommend for them? And of course, is tailored to leaders, but to your point, it's just tailored to anyone because everywhere we go, there we are.
So it depends on the person, right? Some of us burn out because we don't know how to show grace to ourselves. We don't know that rest is not something that you have to earn. Some of us burn out because we're no longer aligned with what we're doing. So it just depends. I think that the most important thing that you can do when approached with burnout is start asking questions. More importantly, the right questions like, what has me feeling burnt out? What are these go-to solutions that I'm looking for discomfort and relief, and why are they not working? And I think that when you start to ask those questions, you can figure out why nothing is truly changing for you.
Yeah. Because the only way you can cure burnout, as they say, is systems and not a vacation. I actually read an article right before this live that the average person needs 7 vacations to actually cure, their tiredness or their burnout. That was an article that was just published. I'll
Really?
send it to you, which is unrealistic, I think, for most people, so you have to find a system which is a lot cheaper. You'll have to find something. Okay, or it means capitalism is failing. Now, number 3, mental health language at work. We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, like the toxic managers, the hostile work environment. I the what is it? Psychological safety is a new term
Mhm,
that
mhm,
has entered the workplace, and I've
mhm.
even used it, and I'm not sure that I've even used it in the right manner. So many of the leaders that I've worked with, they've often used that. That's usually the tripping point between when they want coaching. I know you also coach leaders as well, and so that might be sort of the tripping point for them to say, like, I'm ready for coaching, I'm ready for something different. So sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it's something else. How do you help clients tell the difference?
One, I don't get caught up in all of the language. So I understand that because we have social media, people have access to all of the language. I, as a professional, don't get wrapped up in the language and helping people determine or make the distinction between what is, I guess, what is toxic or harmful. I always go back to getting people to recognize like their sense of agency. And that's where you can really tell when a person is struggling. So someone may tell you that I'm not able to quit because I haven't necessarily saved money. All right. So where is the agency at so that you can start to feel empowered? Do you need to make some adjustments in terms of the lifestyle that you're living? So for me, it's if you truly start to feel helpless and hopeless, like there are no other options that are available to you, that's how I usually make the distinction between what is actually like toxic and harmful. Most people will default to because a job is what provides your security, right? So most people are willing to shrink because I can't afford to lose my job. Even right now, we're seeing a lot of people are being laid off, like, and when you start to understand that nothing is truly guaranteed, it makes you start to think about how much power you actually have or
That's
hold.
true. That's true. Um, okay, so as a follow-up, in your experience, what have you seen happen when that discomfort that people have gets mislabeled?
Um, I think that you can, well, what have I seen? People, one, don't know how to distinguish discomfort from danger. People rob themselves of the ability to actually grow into whatever that next level or version of themselves is. And I think collectively what happens is we start to pathologize like what it means to be human. So people can no longer navigate the normal or day-to-day stressors that just come with being a human and or a leader. What comes to my mind is I think about because we have a lot of conversations around nervous system, and I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I was like, you don't want a calm nervous system. A calm nervous system does not mean that you have a regulated nervous system because when I think about calm, it's like if you were introduced to a disruption right now. If your goal is to have a calm nervous system, you're probably always going to be running and moving around trying to fix and solve stuff. We know that so much of life has a lot of uncertainty, a lot of pressure, and you can't always do that. So the goal is not to have a calm nervous system. The goal would be having the ability to navigate situations, like being able to hold yourself steady, and when I say steady, that means, like, your values, and that's what a regulated nervous system looks like. You don't wanna be calm all the time, like, it's unrealistic.
Yeah, that's true. So that actually is a great segue into the next question around leadership transitions, which you have done yourself and you've overseen as a leader. I've personally, like you and I both have seen people who struggle the most during transitions. What changes with someone emotionally, like what changes emotionally as someone moves from like next level to next level? So I often hear people say they have imposter syndrome because they've stepped into a higher level role, or they will even say things like, "I'm not ready," or "I don't think that I want to do this." So, what have you seen in terms of transitions?
I think that the emotional, reassurance is no longer there. I don't think that people change emotionally, I think that the feedback is not there, so it's more like,
Mhm.
uh, I think what ends up happening is people underestimate how much self-trust replaces reassurance at senior levels because you don't get a lot of feedback. It makes me think of that saying, like, "It's lonely at the top," and the higher you
Yeah,
go, the less feedback, and if it is feedback, it's usually constructive. It's usually not constructive because the stakes are a lot higher uh, because you have more responsibility and life is demanding more for you. So I think it's um, feeling alone
yeah.
and not receiving that.
You said something, I want you to rewind that for the audience. You mentioned something about self-trust. Can you say that again? We need that sound bite.
People underestimate how much self trust replaces friends at senior levels.
Yeah. I think that's important too because I personally dealt with it. You go from being the high potential, you're the golden child, and then you go to the next level, and your level of excellence now becomes regular. And so you're
Right,
looking
you're a
for an
beginner
attaboy.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not because they're like, "We wanted you here, you're here now, what are
Yeah.
you going to do? We've given you more money," and it's like, "Well, I'm still." And I think that that's the thing that we also miss about when it comes to these mental health conversations, like, the way that I learned it or understand it is we struggle with our mental health because we are going to go through these transitions that have the ability to plague our mental health. And when you think about
Yeah.
transitions, you think about the amount of change that all of us experience.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go off of the script here and ask you another question. One
Okay.
of those big terms like psychological safety and all that did not come up. What are your thoughts on imposter syndrome in the workplace?
I mean, in what way? In
Okay,
what
so I
way?
often hear people say that they have imposter syndrome, so they don't feel comfortable speaking up. There's people that feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but I often I think that most people don't know what they're doing. They have a framework that's helping them do what they need to do. So I often hear that when people move into spaces that they're not comfortable in, that they have imposter syndrome.
Mhm. So the first thing that comes to my mind
Yeah.
about imposter, I mean, and I've been there because look, April, I used to use all of the language. What comes to mind when I think about imposter syndrome is a lot of us as human, we want to feel seen, we want to feel heard,
Yeah.
we want to be acknowledged, we want to feel validated. And I always go to like the greatest need that I think we're all looking for is to know that we're capable. And in order to not experience imposter syndrome, you have to be able to ask those questions around capability. Am I able to do the hard things? Can I navigate the hard conversations? Am I willing to let someone go when they're no longer working out? Can I have the hard whatever it may be? So I think that for me, what I've learned about imposter syndrome, it is you haven't necessarily proven that you can truly do it. And most of the time, what we look for is that reassurance because we want to feel validated. So again, and I think that feeling like an imposter is also a part of the human process. Like
Yeah.
it's I mean, I would not want to feel like an imposter because if you didn't, then like what are you doing with your life?
How do you know that so are you saying that maybe there's a reframe that it could be used as a marker of I'm being stretched?
You're definitely being stretched.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole year of 2025, I felt like an imposter.
I would imagine. I mean, you got on huge stages,
Oh yeah, I felt like
huge
I
stages.
mean, but I guess I don't, to your point, reframe, I don't process it like that. It's like you feel like an imposter because this is new. Like you've never done it. In fact, you have always said that you're not a speaker, you're not an educator, you don't teach people. You've also heard people say that you're not good at teaching concepts, and somehow people are saying that you are. So I had a lot of reasons to feel like an imposter, but it was also reminding yourself that this is all new. This is all
Yeah,
new. What are the things? What proof do you have that you're actually capable?
that's true. Okay, so emotional intelligence. It's often misunderstood. What does that actually look like in practice demonstrated, Raquel? So like usually with my clients, I'll tell them things like it means having fire in you, but only speaking grace. I mean, in actual demonstration, what does that actually look like? Because I feel like the words emotional intelligence and discernment can be spiritual in a sense, but I feel like there
Mhm,
also are
mhm.
skills that can be sharpened.
Oh, so so emotional intelligence is not emotional management, and I think that that's how a lot of us end up shrinking. And I'll use myself as an example. Uh, Last year in 2025, I heard the phrase like aggressive or and some of those terms, and I felt myself angry about it and then like, "Here we go again," that sort of thing. And then I was like, "You know what? I don't have to pretend that this does not bother me. Like it's emotional intelligence for me is deciding which rules you're no longer going to abide by. And I think for me, it's willing to be seen in all facets, whether that is another person deeming me as weak because I'm saying that, hey, you know what you said? It affected me. It actually hurt my feelings. And that's actually what I did in that situation. It's saying when you don't understand something. I think a lot of it is not saving face. It's almost like putting yourself out there to lose. That's one aspect. And then the other side of it is there are some situations where you're going to have to hold your composure, but I think it's important to be seen. Emotionally intelligent people are not afraid to be seen.
That's true. So what are your thoughts on Brene Brown when she says it's good to be strategically vulnerable as a leader? Is that the same to you in terms of like what you just shared to me was I decided to let um to let that person or that party know. Does that it read to me sort of as like
Then
strategic
yes.
vulnerability?
So I would agree. I would say yes and no strategically. I think when context comes in here and we talk about different populations, when people that look like you and I hear strategic, what we hear is, I don't want to play politics, right?
Mm,
I don't want to play that game. Why do we have to do this? Why do I have to continue to do this? So I say yes and no because I understand the thinking behind people like you and I when they hear that. It's like, well, we're always having to do this. No, you're playing the game of life in the same way that other people choose to play the game of life. So if it's less about politics and or being strategic, then it becomes about you making a choice on how you want to play this game of life. Because that's what it is. It's a big old game. And that's how I view life. It's a big old game. How do you choose to play it? And sometimes when I say, like, how do I choose to play this game of life? Not about winning or losing anymore. It for me, it goes back to being seen fully. So in that situation, was it strategic? Yes and no. It was strategic in the sense that, some people can say, like, you're protecting yourself because you don't want that to happen again. But the other thing
yeah,
was, can you really, like, allow yourself to be seen and really dismantle some of the beliefs that you've carried, that showing signs of vulnerability is a sign of weakness?
that's true. Um, So now I want to go into a deeper thing. So I often talk about archetypes at work and starting to archetype people appropriately so you know who you need to stay away from, who maybe you should engage with regularly. So across organizations, the same personality and power archetypes show up again and again. Why do these patterns repeat? Is it true that these are just people that probably have no power at home and they bring it to work? That was a very loaded question, but I'm curious to get your take.
I would agree with the first part. People are going to be people, and people are never going to stop peopling. I don't know that it is because they don't have power at home. I think that we all have insecurities. The first thing that comes to my mind is, we, a lot of us don't even know how we would handle power because a lot of us don't have it. And when you don't have power, it's much easier to judge people that do have it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Why do we continue to see patterns of, like, the same personality types? I think that that becomes contingent upon, like, the organization or the company that you're referring to, because there are going to be bad leaders everywhere. Some companies do people very well, and some people do business very well. And some organizations have a hard time finding the balance between people and business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one more follow-up to that about
Yeah.
power and pressure. So as thinking back to even your time climbing the ladder or as you oversaw people who grew their career as a leader, what we know is that the increased responsibility and scope amplifies the pressure that they have. So what new emotional demands should even our listeners think about developing, sharpening as they're thinking about moving to the next level?
What emotional demands should we sharpen?
Yeah, like what new emotional demands often show up at that level and what should they think about sharpening to deal with that in terms of their skill set?
So I don't know that new emotional demands show up. I think that what's already there is just amplified. So I think that as leaders,
Mhm.
when you have, like, this power and that pressure shows up, I think we have to get better about how we handle emotional data. A lot of us still don't know how to use the data. It's like, "Oh, I'm angry right now. Imma make sure I don't blow up on this person."
Mm,
Does that
yeah.
really mean that you know how to use the data? Like, what is the data telling you? Is the data telling you that this is something that you need to act on? Is it telling you that you need to learn how to sit with this discomfort? Or is it creating an opportunity for you to actually learn something?
Yeah.
And so that's what comes to my, like, you know, the formula for developing like your emotional capacity doesn't necessarily change. It's just that some of us just don't know how to use the data. And I always break it down into like three categories. Like the first one is your emotions will tell you if you need to sit with something, and that means that discomfort helps you build tolerance, right? And then the second part of that would be, is this something that you need to learn? Learning increases our awareness around things. And then the other one is, do I need to take action on this? And where there's action, there's agency.
Discomfort builds tolerance. I want everybody to take a note on that. Discomfort builds tolerance, because there are so many people that their only solution is quitting their job. And it
Hmm.
might be increasing their capacity to tolerate certain things, or to reframe what that looks like, and deciding like how close do I need to be to this if they step away from it. That's often what I see, where people kind of even quit prematurely, and it's usually sort of that issue where they don't like to sit in the discomfort of the fact that wherever you go, there's going to be a Bob. Wherever you go, there's going to be
Yeah, I remember I had a
different.
coach because I used to be in my coaching sessions talking about Bob, Sally, right? All of them. And I never forget my coach was like, Raquel, you do realize that there's always going to be a Bob. And I was like, really? Really?
Like,
You
you're
mean
like,
to
I
tell
didn't
me
know.
there are not a bunch of Raquels?
Yeah. You're like,
And I
like, what am I doing this for?
basically.
Yeah. Okay. So then my next question to you is about high performers, that many of them stall somewhere. And I've been talking about this in my soapbox, that they stall somewhere at the senior manager, director level. And it's not because they don't have talent, but there's something that caps them. What do you see most often?
I think is being afraid of change. And from an HR standpoint, I think about like, do the companies have the ability to actually move you up, or do they just want to hold on to you because you do add value? And we'll get to you eventually. I mean, you know how those conversations go, April. But I think you have to be. I think that people stall because they don't want to experience any change, and in the process, you may stay in a place longer than what you actually should have. And it goes back to that whole concept of imposter and being a beginner again.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I have a quote from you, and it's paraphrased, so
Okay.
please don't quote me, because I might not have quoted you correctly. You've said that systems are not always the problems. That can be hard to hear. How do leaders know when the work is internal? So this is challenging, that some people, and I have said this, that I do believe that a lot of corporate America was not built for us in mind, right? We weren't the prototype, or like the foundational, element in that whole thing. So I guess the question is because there are some people who tend to revert a lot to the system. And
Hmm.
I've often said this, and I do get a lot of flack for it, that instead of trying to change the world, we should try to focus on changing our corner of it. That's
Hmm.
often helpful when you need to take a step back, because there's a lot to take on the entire world. So how do leaders know when the work is internal or when it's systemic?
The work is always internal. That's such a so the work is always internal. And I would say that that's hard to hear. And I don't know that it's something that I could have heard a few years ago, because we expect for things to be fair and to be just. So I say that the work is always internal. And it's also understanding that all of us will hold and carry some level of pain just based off of who you are or what your unique traits are. And that's where that concept of capacity comes in too, because you have to be able to hold pain. And I don't know that a lot of us want to hold pain, because also holding pain also creates discomfort.
Yeah, that's good. All right. As we kind of wrap up, I have one more question. And I want to talk a little bit about armor versus avoidance, because you talk a lot about building armor. And I'm sure you've heard some of these things. Well, I just come to work and I do my job and I go home and nobody needs to know my business and all of the things,
Which
right?
one are you talking? Are you talking to the HR me? Or are you talking to the mental health me? Not.
I could be talking to both. I could be talking to both. Okay. Okay. You talk about building the armor. Okay. It says so I pulled this directly from some of the things that I've taken notes from you over the past few months. So, how do leaders strengthen this without becoming rigid or closed? Because I do hear that a lot. Like, I just go to work and I go home. However, I will tell you that that does work in what I call the maintenance phase of your career. But then when you have to play politics, if you're actively wanting to climb, people have to feel like you're giving them something. And I do believe that you can give them a lot and give them nothing at the same time. But I'm but I'm curious about your thoughts on how to do that without looking rigid. Because there's some people who can finesse and do that and still give nothing, right? And then there's people that are
Mhm.
like, well, so I guess I understand. So let's talk directly to Rockwell, maybe the corporate leader first, and see what your
Okay,
thoughts
okay,
are.
okay, okay. Ask me the question again.
Okay,
I'm making sure I censor what
you're
I
making sure
say.
okay.
I am
I
choosing not to be fully seen right now.
okay, I understand. Okay, how do leaders strengthen without becoming rigid or closed as they sort of build their armor of protection up at work? Or, again, everywhere we go, there we are, but in general, in
What do
terms
you
of
mean by armor of protection, April? Maybe I.
so some people try to avoid things, whereas there's things that they need to take on head on, So my question, I think more so is like, what's the difference of when the distinction between when you need to do that when you're avoiding or when you need to build armor capacity?
Oh, from an HR, what just came to my mind is I hear a lot of I just stay in my corner. I do what I got to do. I do what I'm supposed to do. People know my work. Like I'm respected, and I'm like, and that's pretty much all you're gonna probably get out of this, right? That's the
Yeah.
HR me because I mean, if we're gonna talk capital, people are looking for you to add and bring more. We want to be able to get the most out of you and pay you the least that we possibly, right? And then so that's one side of it. I think it's again going back to that we're using strategic. It's not necessarily doubling down on one extreme. Like life is about balance. So yes, you can stay in your corner, but pop up every now and then, show up in a meeting. Show up in a meeting that you wouldn't normally go to. Like if it's one of those optional things, like show
Yeah.
up, add value in that meeting because oftentimes we do have something that we can add. So I don't think it has to be a consistent thing to where you feel like you're being fake. But if you really truly understand that the value that you bring anywhere, like you can pop out sometimes. Pop out.
Like that too. I think it's important to I know some people are like, I don't do the happy hours. Sometimes you have to go to at least one and maybe you can have a
At
Coke.
least one. I hate
Least
them.
one. Yeah. I personally it was my least favorite thing to do, but was seeing those promotions happen in that room. And I think that people often forget that at the end of the day, it's humans hiring humans, and there's a human that's stewarded with their leadership position, operating sometimes with their own personal interests, which is why when I worked in a past job, my boss always used to say, are you hiring for GCU or are you hiring for your team? Come back when you're hiring for GCU, because she would notice that there's these personality hires, and when the manager moves over, those people never work out because they hired them to match their personality. So that came up. So before we close, is there any imparting words you have, Raquel,
I enjoyed this live with you. I think you asked really good.
and things of that nature? Because that's on their wheel of power. But I will say that I think not what that's on their wheel of power. Um, but I will say that I think that there's a lot of people pushing people towards entrepreneurship. And I think there's a conversation that needs to be had that most people, if they're trying to push you because they're like, you want freedom, you're trading in one boss for 24. My clients are my bosses. You're
Yeah.
trading that in for your bosses, and you can get rich with a corporate career. It just depends on how far you want to move up the ladder and what type of company you want to work for. And I think that people need to know that. And I think that they need to know that there's different things that they need to do to build up sort of their internal exterior, as I call it, to be able to handle those things.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. I mean, and sometimes it's not even about rich. Like, do you just want to live well? I
Do
just
you
want to
just want to
live
live well?
well.
Yeah.
I want to live well. I want to live well.
I want to not cut coupons. I want to be able to take the kids to Disney. I want to be able to not have
I
to
want to go to
look
the
at certain
grocery
things.
store, no
Yeah.
budget, and just
Yep.
pick up random stuff that's not on the list. I want to be able to
Exactly.
live well.
That's it. And I think that people assume that you can't do that with a job, or they push people to entrepreneurship because they say this is the only way to build wealth or things like that. And it's just not true. And
I,
so I'm seeing a mass exodus of people who I feel are leaving corporate America ill-equipped to go into entrepreneurship. Um, Whereas I think that they could do a great job, a damn good job, if they just
it's
stay
like
where they
choose
are.
your hard
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
I both are hard, but choose your hard. So
Yeah.
I like currently I enjoy getting my check like I was telling you every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. I
mhm.
think that would probably help your
I
nervous
get
system.
paid PTO.
Yeah. Anytime I go on LinkedIn, I'm like, I'm on non-paid PTO
I
this
know
week.
I saw it before. I get paid
Yeah.
PTO. I like paid PTO. But I mean, I don't know, even in my situation, I mean those things could change, but I'm clear about what I have today,
Yeah.
to your point.
Okay. So as we wrap up, I want to make sure people know where they can find you. I think most people know you, but oblige me and tell me where they can find you.
Raquel, the capacity expert on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. I noticed that I'm getting a few followers there, but I don't post or really engage there. All of my content now is all on Instagram.
Okay.
And yeah,
Are you going to ever pick back up your TikTok? I noticed you don't post there, but you still have like 100K there.
I
So
do not have the
okay.
capacity.
I
I
enough
just-
said. Enough
no.
said.
TikTok is like lit over there. Like it's just
Yeah.
I'll be honest. So once Instagram picked up, I just started to really focus there. Like I don't like TikTok as much as I like Instagram, if I'm being honest. So for me, it's more of a
Yeah.
preference thing. I just like Instagram better.
Yeah. I will say it takes some getting used to because people don't have to like identify there. They don't have to give, their real birth date, and there's no effort to get the real license like a LinkedIn or even an Instagram and a Meta. So it is very
Yeah.
interesting to see the groups of people that come and how emboldened they are
Oh,
with their
you got that
comments.
on
So,
Instagram.
oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
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 Okay, so you have
So
a capacity, am I saying this right? You have a capacity journal.
I have a
Is
capacity journal and a capacity workbook.
Okay, and so if you are interested in that, this content is going to challenge you to think about your growth and your stress as a individual, but especially as a leader. So can they go to your link in bio to
Yep,
find
my
that?
link in
Okay.
bio in my Instagram, and you can look at the different options that I have available there.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for coming to my unofficial talk show today. So I want to thank everybody here for spending this 45 minutes with us. So if you are feeling stretched at work, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It often means that you need to just level up, and you're playing at a rate that just requires more capacity than you've probably currently built. It doesn't mean you can't do it. So I want to thank you all for being here, and thank you all for engaging.